Okay, sample ballot show, the analysis edition. Basically, I'm going to go down my ballot for the 2022 Republican primary election in gorgeous Greensboro, North Kakalaki, aka North Carolina. Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, just point of emphasis, my ballot does not have, well, it has that at-large county commission race, but no, I'm not going to be able to vote in the District 2 or District 3 races. So vote your conscience for those, but here we go. U.S. Senate. Okay. I've been involved in politics for about 12 years now. Of course, I registered to vote when I was 18, but as far as an activist, been an activist since I was about 24. So, and thank you. I look pretty young for 36. Thank you. Anyway, this U.S. Senate seat was one of the hardest decisions that I have ever had to make in my 12 years as a political activist. Okay. So, there are 14 candidates running, okay? About half of them even bothered to show up on the campaign circuit at various county district conventions. So you can eliminate half of them because half of them aren't out there campaigning as far as I know. And then you can whittle down a couple more. So you get to about 4 candidates that I'm going to mention. Okay. At the very beginning of this race, actually back last year at the state convention in Greenville, I was wholeheartedly in on Ted Budd. Okay. I wore a button, I wore a sticker and everything at the convention, etc. There's a couple things that have really ticked me off about Ted Budd, pissed me off about Ted Budd in 2022. One is he won't bother to show up for a frickin' debate. You know, even Tom Tillis showed up for a debate, a couple debates in the 2014 primary season. Of course, I voted for Greg Brannon then. So in 2014, but of course I voted for Tom Tillis in the general election because he was the Republican nominee. But anyway, I give Tom Tillis a lot of flack on certain things, but at least he showed up. Ted Budd has not shown up for a debate, and probably will not. Another thing is he seems to have, he seems to be more of Donald Trump's candidate rather than the people of North Carolina's candidate. And that's more so because of all the money that's coming in from the Club for Growth, which is a good organization as far as I know. But still, you're having all this money come from out of state that's sort of buying the Senate seat. Sort of like what we have with Karl Rove and his Crossroads PAC in 2014 with Tom Tillis. But still, so you have that for Ted Budd. Mark Walker, a man who I have an enormous amount of adoration and respect for. Mark Walker is a very good guy. And when you listen to him at all these debates and candidate forums and everything, he just seems so down to earth, so genuine, speaking from the heart. Just great person. Making me more credible with Baptist minister. But there are some things I don't like about Mark Walker either. One is, this is kind of ancient history now, but back, in 2014 when he was running, Of course, he beat Phil Berger Jr. in the primary. Huge upset. In the general election, he said he would not vote John Boehner for Speaker of the House. But then, guess what? One of his first votes when he got elected in 2014 was he voted for John Boehner for Speaker of the House. But then you file the money offense that, well, John Boehner gave him money, and, one of this, Unfortunately, one of the things that why a lot of people aren't into politics is there's so much, well, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing, right? So... Another thing I don't like about Mark Walker is he has a tendency to just kind of say or act like a goober, I mean, on his Facebook page, he was at a barbecue restaurant. I think it might have been Country Barbecue here in Greensboro, or somewhere in the Greensboro, Winston-Salem metro area. He's at a barbecue place. He's like, oh, yeah, I always order the dark chicken or blah, 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 I mean, okay. Here in the South, who the hell goes to a barbecue restaurant, especially in North Carolina, and orders chicken? You get chicken anywhere, right? Here in North Carolina, it better be something other than chicken. Better pork, ribs, brisket, beef ribs, chicken, really? So I just think Mark Walker, he can have a tendency to say some gooberish things, some just really silly things that might, unfortunately, be able to flip a county that is on the verge of going blue, like an Alamance County or maybe a Cabarrus County, that started to get, used to be like an R plus 15 county, now it's like an R plus 5 or 6, but he might be able to, do enough damage in those loose, very loose, almost have flipped blue counties, to lose the race. But probably number one thing that just absolutely infuriates me about Mark Walker is that he talked so much garbage about Tom Tillis in, I believe it was 2019, early part of 2020. He said, he called out Tom Tillis on not supporting Donald Trump's immigration and the wall and everything, and called Tom Tillis a weak-kneed senator. And there was so much buzz about Mark Walker running against Tom Tillis for U.S. Senate in 2020. Okay, and he even got an endorsement from a sit-in county GOP chair, and that was Diane Parnell, a great lady out of Rockingham County. She even said openly at a county convention that, she has Mark Walker's back in the primary and in the general, of course. Well, Mark Walker took all that and took his trash talking, and then when it came time for filing in 2020, guess what Mark did? He walked away. He chickened out. So, yeah. And we have Pat McCrory, right? Pat was governor from 2013 to 2017. And he took a couple of very reliably leaning Republican areas, and now they went blue. Why did they go blue? And guess what? Pat lost re-election, by the way, in a very good year for Republicans in 2016 when Donald Trump got elected, right? And Republicans held the House and Senate for that. Okay, Pat McCrory turned the northern suburbs of Charlotte blue, and he turned New Hanover County, Wilmington, down the coast blue. He turned northern Charlotte blue because he implemented the construction of the toll lanes on Interstate 77. Now, some of McCrory's loyalists will say that, well, the plan was already underway and everything when Pat McCrory got elected, blah, blah, blah. But the reality of the situation is the governor still had the authority to stop it, but he didn't do it. Toll lanes went in, and he lost, he went from an R plus 10 to a D plus 10. Huge flip. Wilmington, New Hanover County. McCrory killed the film industry. Could have kept the incentives in for the film industry. Did not do that. It killed off the film industry, and the only reason why the film industry is still surviving, is actually thriving in Wilmington now. Some of it's because Atlanta's gotten so crowded and busy with productions, it's spilled over into Wilmington. Another thing is just because thanks to Senator Michael Lee and Ted Davis, some other people in the legislature down there, they've, they told McCrory to hit the road and just, were successful in implementing those incentives. But yeah, Wilmington was a Republican voting county, turned blue. McCrory. So do you really want to vote for somebody who lost re-election in a year that was already favorable to Republicans, but lost anyway? Number 4, Marjorie Eastman. Marjorie Eastman, great candidate. Problem is, she's never been in public service. Good and bad, I guess. But another thing is, she talks about all the time about her, she has a 10-year-old son, I think he's 10, beat cancer when he's 6 months old. She's military, was in the military, puts her son on the school bus every day. To me, Marjorie Eastman right now, I think maybe in 10 years or so, she could probably be a great candidate for U.S. Senate. But I think right now she's a stick with local and state office. And now I'm not going to say she needs to go all the way down to city council or county commission. No. I think she'd be a perfect candidate to primary Catherine Truitt in the state superintendent seat when it comes up again in 2024. Marjorie Eastman will be perfect for that seat, is my opinion. So what is my choice? Of those 4, which one am I going to vote for? Well, it's going to be Ted Budd. Okay. Why? Well, look, he's disappointing me. Won't show up for debate. Got all this money coming in from D.C., bankrolling his campaign. But the reality of the situation is that Ted Budd, as a congressman, he's never disappointed me. He's very reliably conservative, one of the highest rated conservatives in the U.S. House of Representatives. I remember doing robocalls for him back in 2018, and guess what? A couple days later, I got a personal phone call from him thanking me. That is never. I've made robocalls for other candidates over years. That he's the only one that's ever done that. So that's pretty sweet. Also, get this. He sleeps in his office when he is up in D.C. In the Congress. He has a bed in his office he sleeps in. A lot of other congressmen, they go and they burn through thousands of dollars at a luxury hotel or luxury apartment. But no, Ted Budd sleeps in his office. So he's just a great guy. He's also, he's a gun show owner, small business owner, and just there's really hardly anything you could say about Ted Budd, whereas you can say about Mark Walker or Pat McCord. There's really, he really has never disappointed me on a political or even a personal level, for that matter. So while I don't like the fact that he's skipping debates, I don't like the fact he's taking all this money from D.C. for his campaign, still, Ted Budd is the most reliable choice, the best choice for U.S. Senate. Now, who do we have next on the ballot? U.S. House of Representatives. Okay. This one there's 7 candidates in this race. Only one of them is a person who has worked very hard, very diligently for the Republican Party over the last 10, 15, 14 years, I think. There's only one candidate who continually shows up every single election cycle and contributes to the party. And that man is a great man, a man who I have absolutely no hesitation about endorsing. That man is Lee Haywood, okay? I mean, he's served as a precinct chair. He always comes to the meeting. Every time we go on Facebook, he's always somewhere else around the state going to some sort of event. He's everywhere. You know, he's been a district chair, he's conservative for Guilford County chair, Tea Party, state executive committee, district executive, every title in the state party. But the thing is he knows the base. He knows the activists in the party. And guess what? He's ultimately going to work for the people. He's not going to work for these, he's not going to work for the special interests. Like, so many of these other candidates, they say the right thing, but guess what? They'll go to D.C. and they'll do, who's ever giving out the most cash is going to be they're going to work for, ultimately. And guess what? Lee Haywood says, guess what? Win or lose, he's still going to be working for the party on May 18th. And I just don't know if any of the 6 other candidates are going to do that. So Lee Haywood, by far the most easiest endorsement I can make in this primary cycle. Okay, going down to state offices. Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Victoria Prince. Don't know anything about her. Don't have any information about her. Cross her name off. April Wood. Great lady. Has 30 years experience in the judiciary system as a lawyer or judge. That's good. That's great. Problem is she just got elected in 2018 or 2020, very recently, to this Court of Appeals. Now she turns right around and, at some point, are you a career candidate or are you actually going to do some work? Turns right around and now she's running for, state Supreme Court. Trey Allen, military, college professor at UNC Chapel Hill, endorsed by Paul Newby. Trey Allen, to me, the most well-rounded candidate, somebody who actually, is not hopping from job to job. He's been at Chapel Hill for the last 10 years. Endorsed by Paul Newby. Paul Newby, all he talks about is the Constitution, so Trey Allen's going to be an originalist on the state Supreme Court. He's going to follow the Constitution. He's going to interpret the law, not make law. So, Trey Allen is my choice for the U.S. or the North Carolina Supreme Court. Court of Appeals. You have Beth Freshwater Smith and Donna Stroud. I've looked at interviews on YouTube from both of these ladies. They both seem very well qualified, very good. They talk for, I think Smith talked for over 20 minutes on a radio show. Donna Stroud did like an hour-long interview. I think it's WHIG, a community television station out of the Wilson area, Rocky Mountain area, somewhere around there. The thing that I really, really like about Donna Stroud is that, I actually got to see her speak at a county and district convention. Beth Freshwater Smith went to like 5 different county conventions. Was not at any of them. And Donna Stroud said, guess what? On the first day of COVID, I made a decision that adults can make their own decisions on what regulation to file with COVID. So she tore down all the signs in the court. Says, you want to wear a mask, you wear a mask. If you don't, you don't. You want a vaccine? Great. If not, you don't have to get one. But yeah, Donna Stroud is all about freedom, medical freedom from this COVID mess and everything. Listen to her interview. She's very down to earth. She doesn't seem like, well, some judges, they really seem like they want to put themselves over their constituents or over the law. Or some judges are like, silence, I am the great and powerful cause, Donna Stroud's not like that. Very down to earth, very relatable, just doesn't think she's better than anybody else. Freshwater Smith, I just don't have enough information. Also, she did not really give any reason as to why she would be better on the appeals court than Donna Stroud, or why does she think that after 16 years on the appeals court, why do you want to run against Donna Stroud? So my choice for this appeals court seat is Donna Stroud. Next up is another Court of Appeals seat. This is seat number 11. Michael Stadton versus Trey Allen. Guess what? Michael showed up, okay, and Michael is not releasing these juvenile attacks. Trey Allen is attacking Michael Stadton. Says he changed parties like 3 times in the last 4 years, but that's not true. If you go to the NC Voter Lookup website and type in Michael Stadton, Mecklenburg County, okay, he changed parties once, and that was back in 2008. He changed from Democrat to Republican, but he's been Republican ever since 2008, 14 years ago, okay? Michael Stadton showed up. I don't know anything about Trey Allen. Trey Allen is no information out there about him. How am I going to learn about a candidate, let alone vote for one, if I don't have information about him? Michael Stadton's been endorsed by Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. Michael Stadton is my choice for this seat. Okay, Board of Commissioners, Guilford County at large. Alvin Robinson versus Jerry Allen Branson. Jerry Allen Branson was a commissioner on the board from 2012 to 2020, lost his re-election in 2020 by about 72 votes or something like that. Very close, very hard-fought victory, very heartbreaking loss for Mr. Branson. Mr. Branson has a great record as a commissioner. Lowered taxes, definitely reined in the spending. Now we have a Democrat majority on the county commission, and all they want to do is spend. And they don't worry about the cost of taxpayers. My issue with Branson, though, is you just lost an election in 2020, and now you want to run again in 2022. My opinion is, if you lose an election, you should sit out at least one election cycle, maybe even 2. Go be active in the party, go to all the events, talk with people, rebuild some things in your campaign network, and then run again. Don't just lose, and then the next year you're campaigning again. You give yourself a break. Just Alvin Robinson, I'm going to vote for him. He is a retired firefighter. I am the son of a retired firefighter. That hits home with me right there. And just seems, instead of having the same people all the time on the Board of Commissioners, recycling people, and how about some new blood? How about Alvin Robinson? Sheriff. 6 candidates are running. 4 of them have a lot of good experience. The best one I think is going to be E.L. Melvin. He was the former chief deputy, the assistant to the current sheriff, the Democrat train wreck known as Danny Rogers. Mr. Melvin resigned from the sheriff after Danny Rogers, he inexplicably fired 30 employees in the sheriff's office without cause. So, yeah. So we have less police now on the street in Guilford County. E.L. Melvin left in 2019. That was only 3 years ago. Most of the other candidates that are running they retired in 2012, 2014, several years ago. E.L. Melvin just left 3 years ago. I think he knows where the bodies are buried in the sheriff's office, and he's a guy who I think is going to hit the ground running on day one. I think with someone, when they retire, they take a few years off. Sometimes there's a bit of a learning curve there, and it takes a while for you to see progress. I think with E.L. Melvin, we're going to see progress in the Guilford County Sheriff's Department on day one. So E.L. Melvin is my choice for the sheriff nomination of the Republican Party. Now we get to the city of Greensboro. Oh boy. Okay. Mayor. Let's talk about the mayor. Nancy Vaughn is the incumbent, and she's terrible. One of the biggest reasons why is during these riots back in 2020 that we had. The riots, they shut down Wendover Avenue. They went all the way from downtown to Wendover Avenue and Interstate 40. They shut down Wendover Avenue, one of the busiest roads in the city. I-40, one of the busiest highways in the city. Nancy Vaughn just could not control her city, and she certainly cannot control her own city 2 years later. Crime is out of control. And in her closing statement at the last mayor's debate, she talked about the most important thing, we got to pass this bond referendum for these schools. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. We have out of control crime, and you're saying we need to spend more money on schools. If we have out of control crime, shouldn't Nancy Vaughn be saying that in her closing statement? Shouldn't she be saying that we need to increase funding on police? Really. Huh? Doesn't make any sense. Justin Allen. Seems like a good guy. A very eloquent speaker. Of course, he's an attorney. Supposed to be an eloquent speaker. Sometimes I wonder if he's a little bit rehearsed with what he says. Maybe he's not as genuine as I would like. He's a Democrat. Nancy Vaughn's also a Democrat. But I think Justin Allen is sort of part of the problem. He's not as big of a pariah as Nancy Vaughn is, but he's been on city council for about 8 years. Just to me, he talks a good game, but it's a lot of these. It's a little too polished. It's a little too stuff. I've heard this before, kind of thing. Mark Timothy Cummings. If you think Justin Allen and Nancy Vaughn are liberal, this Mark Cummings guy, he's way over there. Way far to the left. Talks about this one Greensboro initiative, but guess what? I can't find any information anywhere on that one Greensboro initiative. There's no information on Mark Cummings for mayor, but there is a news item from about 2018, 2019 about him having to resign from being a district court judge for disorderly conduct. So, do I want somebody who's a far leftist socialist? And do I want somebody who had to leave as a district court judge for misconduct? No. So that leaves Eric Robert. Eric Robert is unaffiliated. Eric Robert, when I first heard him speak, he was a little hard to understand. He's an immigrant. I don't know where he's from, France or some I forget, but he has a bit of an accent when he talks. A little hard to understand at first, but then I heard him in one of his own personal discussions where they had like 3 or 4 of his supporters. He talked for like an hour, 15 minutes. None of the other candidates for mayor were there, just Eric Robert. He seems like he wants to be, he's not part of the Greensboro establishment. He's an outsider, and he says he wants to give government back to the people. He had filed a lawsuit with Nancy Vaughn over, why is the city not renting out the Greensboro Coliseum for gun shows? Nancy Vaughn's attacking the Second Amendment. He says, and also he says they're attacking the First Amendment because apparently there's some shoddy record keeping at City Council. So he says, look, where does it stop with these people? You're attacking the First Amendment, Second Amendment. What are we going to go all the way to the 13th Amendment? So it makes a very valid point, Eric Robert. And just seems like Eric Robert is the only one of the 4 that you can say doesn't have any baggage. He just seems to be the best candidate, the only candidate out of the bunch. So my vote for mayor is for Eric Robert. Okay. City Council at large. We have 10 candidates running. You can vote for 3. I'm only going to vote for 2. Melody Fentress and Katie Rasabi. They're the 2 Republicans running, but that's not the only reason why I'm voting for them. All the other candidates, it just they're Democrat or they're unaffiliated. But if they're unaffiliated, they pull a Democrat ballot most of the time. All the other 8 candidates, they just have these words that when you talk about climate change and all this other left-wing gobbledygook, and it just seems like Mrs. Fentress and Mrs. Rasabi care about the issues that matter. We got to get our crime under control. We got to make Big Greensboro more business friendly. That's also why in City Council for District 5, I'm voting for Tony Wilkins. Can't find any information, 0 on Robert Bodenheimer. Tammy Thurm's the incumbent. All you know about Tammy Thurm is she voted against a federal grant to help fund her police, and then turned right around and decided to use that money on garbage collecting. Police and garbage collecting. Which is more priority? Yeah. Tony Wilkins is the choice there. And this last 2 shouldn't surprise any of y'all. I am 110% against raising the sales tax to fund education. Well, it's only 0.25%. I'm like, come on now. When the Republicans had the majority on the county commissioners, they set aside $300 million to spend on upgrading the schools. Well, guess what? The Democrat majority now has not spent that money yet. Yet, they have not spent that money, and yet at the same time, they're asking for $1.7 billion for schools. Yet, they still haven't spent $300 million. So shouldn't we as voters say, spend $300 million first, spend it wisely, okay, on schools and only schools, not administrators or administrative buildings or, fancy schmancy cars. Okay, spend $300 million wisely, and then maybe we'll consider $1.7 billion. So the school bond referendum, $1.7 billion. I'm a hard no. Hell no on that one. So that is my sample ballot. Hope you've enjoyed my little ramble here. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.